Okay, by now we've drilled the holes in the hinges, test fit it, did our checks, made sure it was dialed in. You still have to work on the front, finishing the back. So here you can see I've got two weld nuts. They're barrel style, chamfered the holes, dropped them in, kept the profile nice and low. Plenty of thread stick out on a 1-inch bolt. Just TIG those on, just retained them. And then TIGged on just to tack and keep that in position. That's all it needs to do, is keep it in position to make the sandwich for the hinges. Same thing both sides. It fits. I'm not going to touch it because I just welded on it, but my blanket comes up through that slot on each side. And now I'm ready to completely square it, put it in, square it, and put the two hat channels on and continue on. Well, would you look at that? Now I got the hat channels on. And again, from the bottom side, the hats are up, right? So now you can start to visualize the hood, the blanket or the decorative aluminum or whatever it is I put under there, how that's going to look in there. Just TIG welded the tops of them. I'll get the sides. I want to pull the hood off, but in this trick here, I wanted to get everything down, ran one bar across, clamped to the hood, sitting on top of here and on top of the hood area in the cowl, not the top of the cowl, not the body area. And then I made sure that I could get a straight edge all the way around and on the sides to try to control any movement, whether during my welding or if I'm leaning on a part of it or anything like that. So now she's really coming along. I got clearance. Everything's gonna make it. It's a lot of stuff. I could have got, well, maybe my overflow tank will be there for my radiator, but there's a lot of room right here. I could probably get something in. Who knows? Anyway, she's getting toward the end. I'm still considering adding sheet metal straight out and going around here, but I think I'm at that phase now where I need to finish up welding the hat channels, but get the latch set up figured out, so it will latch and unlatch, and then make the skin. The hood's still sitting over here. It's right there. Just got to get some shape to it. And that will be, for the most part, the sheet metal fabrication part should be about done. Then I can get back to blocking and getting everything in gray epoxy. Yeah, okay, so test fitted it in. I got, well, you can see the signature on this side. The top sides of the hat channels in. So now you can see clamp, holding it down nice and flat. I just went to the shear and trimmed a few pieces of 1/2 inch 18 gauge. I do want a radius in that corner, but I want to just trim them all to 1/2 inch. They're all the same length, so that'll go in later. And then now I'm just slowly tacking and working my way around with the TIG for that shelf. This one. I'm just going to have to do a lot of little radiuses when I get there, and then I'll do the same thing on the other side. So I've trimmed this down now to 1/2 inch. You see those two holes? Those two holes were in the front. There's a witness of one, and I filled the other one right there. That's where I stopped, actually. And so I'll trim that. I tried to keep the holes on the 1/2 inch side. That's a 1 inch strip on the side up, but obviously I was a little bit low. But that's okay, you know. I mean, there's not a lot there, just a little eyebrow. And you know, TIG this side. I'll flip it over and look at the other side if I need to run a bead across the other side, because this has got to have, you know, a radius like that so it looks formed. Yeah, I'll have to deal with this section here. Don't know yet what I'm going to do about that. Maybe leave it, maybe not. We'll see. Maybe I'll slit it, fold it over, and you know, drill 2 holes. That's probably what I'll do. Drill 2 holes, slit it, dolly it down, and then plug weld it. Something like that. So, coming. Okay, here's what I'm trying to achieve. So I welded in a triangle. This is all just hit with 36 to take the weld down to the surface, just to the surface, right? As soon as I get to touch the surface, I'm done with 36. I scratched this or hit this with 80. But you can see now I'm just establishing from that triangle. I draw in my radius on the 2 ends here. In this case, clamps are in the way right now. And I will do the same on here. I've just got an old plasma cutout piece of 1/4 inch. But basically I just stick in there, sight it, draw my line, and then take a burr, right? Remove the material. And then I follow it with a stone, because a stone gives you the opportunity to bite slow, right? So I get in there good and close, and then I just take a stone. And so now it looks like it's supposed to look. I did not, you can see where my low spots on my welds are here, but there's no radius on this at this point. I just took it off this way and off that way, and that's it at this point. So the radius will come. Okay, now I took these edges down, folded them in, ran a drill in, and tigged those guys down. Finished off these corners. Got a little bit of sanding left to do on them. They're kind of a birch to get after, but I want them radiused. But then just for shiggles, I took a 80 grit on the DA. I can't get up into here all the way, so, but I started on this edge here. Got one little dingleberry. Everything else came out. Got a few pinholes. Not that worried about it for an inner structure. These will all come out. This one, if you recall from the last session, it was pretty deep. But all these others will come out, and it's starting to look like it's supposed to look. So this is the show side, of course. The other side is the glue side, or the bonding side. But I will continue on. I'm done with this. Now I need to go to that, right? So it is starting to show or turn out the way I was attempting to get it to turn out. So, and then we got to start all over on the front and get the latching system figured out. Okay, excuse me, I turned the phone on and I coughed. So now I've got the front all welded up, my little triangles welded in and sanded with 36. So at this point then, just taking the tops of the welds off, that's it. Now I'll take my little piece and, and begin. There's a big piece of plasma on there. I'll take my little piece and line it up. Then hobber those out and start to finish it by working my grits up to 80 and then maybe 120. Hit it with the DA, look for imperfections, and keep on going. So I decided that I mocked it up. That all went really well. Everything seems to be lining up well. I had to do a little tapping on this piece here, a little stretching here. I made some notes. 1/4 inch. I knew what that used to say. This was out. This side was out. And if I remember right, this side just had to be ground down. On this, yeah, knocked down. I had to go down with this flanges up. But that all, I got that all kind of dollied in, and then I decided I wanted to make a couple of pieces, so then I got a shape. I took a paper shape off of the front. See where the radiator cap is? It's just a paper shape. And transferred it to sheet metal. Okay. And just put that into a, I don't know where the scrap is right now, but I think I put it back on the shelf. But before I cut it out, I drew my bead on and rolled 2 beads into it. Okay. And then from there, I flattened the bead out at the top. It just terminates here. Just coined the end. And I coined it again right here. You can see my line and flatten that out. Now, you can see on this arrangement that this hood comes down relatively straight, and actually on the radiator support it cuts back. It's an inch above here, but the actual sheet metal will go down to the bottom of this bead, which is about the halfway zone on this bar. And because that grill cuts back, that sheet metal with the hood opening in the direction it is has an opportunity to hit the grill. So I'll have to address that on the actual hood, but I also have to address it where that wraps around, that extension wraps around. So I terminated the bead a little higher, and I don't know where that cut's going to be, but I'm going to have adequate clearance before I knife that back. This course clears, but this is going to be radiused in here somewhere, or tapered, or somehow addressed for that. So I have it all tacked up on the top side, on the glue side, or the side that the skin goes on. And I'm just going to finish putting in some little triangles so that this will radius like the rest of this. This side has not been dressed out. You see the TIG weld penetration all the way through. Although the corners, I love to see 100% penetration. So that gives me confidence that that everything is coming together the way it was planned. I'll have to clean this side yet, but at this point I'm wrapping up the skeleton, and it's coming along very, very, very well. So I'll stay with it, weld the other side, clean the other side, then clean this side, and we should be about wrapped, I think. Oh, the only thing then is I want to go to the pick and pull and see what I can do for a latch. And that latch will most likely be in this area, because that area is consumed, right? It's just inside of this, but you know, maybe a 1/2 inch. But I got my radiator support, this black piece right here, that I'll have to take off of for the latch, not be in the way of my radiator hose course, not be in the way of my radiator fill cap, but somehow squeeze something in there. So I got to go look, maybe a hatch latch or something that I can get, that the packaging is very, very small. So we'll stay with it. Okay, you can see from the top side, the glue side, the bead in each of the sides. Okay, just starting to kind of look at the condition of the weld, and a lot of dollying, because this material moves a lot, but I got it in. Get it with conditioner. I got a few spots in here that, and dolly the material out. That's not the edge of the material, the weld's right here. Put my radiuses in. I'd say that looks pretty good. So now I'm gonna finish it out, get it sanded out, get it hit it with 80 grit. 80 grit hides everything, of course, you know. You get 80 grit on and with a DA and everything looks beautiful in 80 grit. Okay, here we have it on the car, and it lines up really good. You can see the gap on each side, comes around. This fiberglass isn't perfect. I mean, it was just trimmed, so that's why I mirrored these pieces, and I can deal with that later. But then I lost a piece of metal there. There she's opened up. Wow, pretty happy with that. And this is what you see when you open the hood. But that bead adds some structure and some strength. It maintains the radius, provides a very large bonding area for the sheet, the inverted hat, then of course bonding area there and on here. And what that'll do is allow me, because it closes down an inch. I do not have my hinges adjusted yet, but it closes down an inch above this bar, and I'm losing everything here. And you can see that bead will be, which is the bottom of the hood, will run above, a little above half. So this will allow the panel bond is to go on this surface and on this surface, just to hold that contour, but you will have enough room to adjust if necessary to make sure that you don't scratch the hood side, or the side panels that go on here. But wow, it sure does look pretty for a skeleton. Okay, so now that I've got things fitting and all that, I don't know if you can remember back, but so I'm going to trim this edge to mirror the other side. This edge gets a little piece added on to it and then radiused, just to allow for a little more room for a hole. I want to upsize. Those are 5/16 holes. I'll go 3/8, possibly 7/16, just to have enough movement. 7/16 on 5/16 gives me what, a 16th, right? Off a center, either way. 16th isn't that much this way. I'm not that concerned, but this ways allows any adjustment that needs to be made. Pretty complex panel. Once you get everything panel bonded on, yeah, you're going to do it in a controlled environment. You're going to have it on the car. You're going to do all that kind of thing. When all is said and done, if you need a minor adjustment, you need a minor adjustment. So I pulled the hinge off on the driver's side, got the hood set in here, or the hood frame, and I'm preparing to weld up. Got a piece of material with a nice 90-degree edge on it. It's 1 inch thick, a good heat sink, but in any regard, I'm going to fill in across these holes with stainless steel TIG rod. The end result will be all welded in. Got because it's bent right on the radius, it's got 100% penetration very easily. This one I did add material onto the end. I didn't do a steep radius like I drew on that. I did a gentle one. I might continue opening that, or radiusing that a little bit more once I get the other one off and I look at it and compare. It's always good to have a little extra material, right? Than not enough. This does look like he's getting a little bit close, but I clearly can get a 7/16 hole into here and have plenty of strength. So that's what I'm engaged in right now. and we'll finish up the little hinge pieces. Okay, yanked the hinges out, got them in, finished them. I welded the 90 in there. You can see the bottom side of the weld. So all of that is done. When we bring the hood down to its resting place, I'd like to be a little below, and I am. This follows just beautifully, but I'm proud from here to here. So I got to shrink this a little bit, and that's fine. That always happens with welding, right? And what I'm doing to identify that, it says touch, so I touched it. So I just lay it's kind of going back to the earlier principles, but see, this is good. I'm touching there, and I'm touching there in the cowl. This is 1/8 of an inch. I'm still below, the top of the sheet metal. But then I get, it's blatantly obvious. I go up there, and I'm touching in the back. And I can see, when I compare the two sides, you probably might not be able to see from the video, but this stands up. So that's fine. I got to do some hammer and dolly work. And as I'm coming around the corner here now, touching both sides, I come to right here, and I can get over it, but I'm creating a gap where I'm just going to be a little too high. So this will have to get dollied a little bit as far as it needs to get dollied. So I'll need to address that. That's neither of which are big deals, but the thing is I don't want to change any of this at this point. I mean, it just rides. There's a little bit of hammering that needs to be done here because I can feel it just there, the drag. You can see it just a little bit, and then it drags in. Now this will be panel bonded on this surface, and so I'll probably dolly that just a little bit, but it will be panel bonded on. So I have, I easily got 1/8 of an inch for the squish of the panel bond. But that area and that area, they're the same. They're both touching. So I will need to address that. Not overly concerned about it. I'm now at a point also across the hood with the tapping and all that everything is in a position that it needs to be in. The hood from side to side is where it needs to be. And now it's time to make this situation latch. Yes, I got this to do. I got the notes on the frame, and I will do that. But since I'm going to be doing more welding on the frame, I need to do that. Why yank it off, touch all this, weld here, and then it wings up a little bit, and then come back and have to do it all. So I'd rather just finish out the welding at this point. So what I have done is I went to the pick and pull and searched through and looked for a number of different latch assemblies. And ironically, I never would have thunk it, but I got this off of a, it'd be the, Magnum series. So 93.4 to 96.7 Dodge chassis, where the grill was integrated into the hood. Well, most of them are now. In any event, it had a separate safety latch. It was just a mechanism, a lever, that this would pop up and it would catch on that, and then you'd lift the latch and go up. That was one plus, because I'm not going to have, my grill isn't going to allow for me to reach in, right? The way I'm going to arrange the grill, more than likely be vertical slats, and there won't be a way, they'll be too close to reach in. I not going to get a bunch of rise out of here to get underneath, and space is so limited. So I'm going to go with the primary latch. And the other nice thing about this Dodge unit The spring, the mechanism itself is designed to push the hood up. So there's no spring mount, you know, where there's a coil spring that's about 3 inches long involved. Now, so this unit's about 6 inches, and I need to get closer to 4. So I'm going to weld up these holes and start to modify this to fit. This will work. This is the piece that would go into the hood because I don't have, it's approximately 2 inches deep on that other unit. I don't have 2 inches, but I certainly have enough space to get this in, get that latch to come around here and still be under the hood. So to get the latch assembly lined up properly is also going to be a nightmare. This aluminum tab came with the radiator. That'll just get cut off. But that's why it's got to get shorter, because I'm going to hit that, and it's got to be above the rad hose. So we got some work. We got some work to do, but we'll get it figured out, and that's what we're going on to now. Okay, here we go. This is the latch assembly. This is going to mount under the radiator support. I blanked the holes, moved them in, and then cut off the ears. So now I have to drill new holes, and that assembly will sit in right in that area, just behind the grill. Okay, I'll keep some of this material here, but then I'll build the pocket for the latch, or the pin. This is the pin out of the Dodge, okay, for mock-up. She's a little loose. I might have to do something with her, replace it, you know, big deal. This is in great shape. So I plasma cut out the interior shape of this. See, I wanted this to go into a recess. So I allowed for the material thickness and this blank, then I just cut it on the plasma table, chamfered the edges so it would lead in. Okay, set the whole thing on this on a piece of wood and bent up a shape, leaving 1 inch of material. Just bent it over in the finger brake, right? Stuck this inside, took a cut-off wheel and cut a square out. It didn't really matter, just had to be smaller and less than 1/4 of an inch, because this is 1/4 inch material. Stuck that inside, threw the block inside. Just cut the block on the saw. That's not all the way in. Okay. Lined this up, made marks on here, lined this up. Took the press and pressed him through till he hit the wood. Okay. I had to dolly a little bit, but now I got a rolled edge that this drops into. Now, the Dodge hood, I got to get it set up so you can see it. Right, as a crown, it touches on the ends but not in the middle. Okay, it also has a reverse crown, or it's concave on the ends. It's just how the shape would go, and it would add to the strength of the finished piece. So now I've got to go in. This crown is going that way, right? So then I'll start hitting this side on the shrink, this side on the shrink, until this drops in and hits flush. That's why these aren't welded. And hit this on the stretch and this on the stretch until I arrive at that shape. Drill it, get nuts in, and then this, whoa, and then this piece will then splice into here, be beneath the, you know, I'll cut that radius, this radius up, out, stick it in, weld it up, tie it in to the two sides, and voila. We have the top, the receiving end of the hood latch. So we're making progress. The only thing shitey about this thing is this pin rolls and he's loose on this end just from age. So I may just refurbish this. The pin is not, well, she's got somewhere. Maybe I'll just replace the pin and TIG it on both sides just so it looks OEM when it's done. But anyway, we are making progress on the latch assembly. Okay, as soon as I got off that last, it's been about 5 minutes at most. I thought I'll just hold this piece up to it while I'm shrinking. And so I stretch. The interesting thing about this is you can see the amount of stretch in this side. And I fill the radius. Okay? On this side, just a couple of little hits. Not much at all. On the shrink. On the stretch, I could get a little more on the outside edge here, but my bolt is hitting nice and flat. And it gets kind of compoundy. I could probably tap that into it. That very end piece. Same on this side. Just a little bit. But I could bolt that up and tap that down before I weld this. And then build out the box. Finish welding out the box. I got, you know, get them back to 90 and all that kind of thing. Clean this up with the flapper. And we have ourselves the receiving end of a latch assembly ready to go in and trim out. Cool. Okay. You can see we're touching all the way around now. Just simply bolted it on and you can see some of my hammer marks in there. Just dollying it down and playing with the corners and getting that form in there. You can see the shrink on this, or where I shrunk on this side. He's just a little off the bench. And how proud it is on this side. And of course, these are stretch. So now that piece is there. I dollied it around until I could get the corners good and tight. I did notice that it has to set when it's introduced into this. It's got to be in the car like that, right? In the closed position. So that which is no big deal, but I'll have to take that into account. Decide which is front and which is back on here for convenience. You know, that hood is pretty well horizontal. It doesn't crown from the front to the back. So, you know, this will have to be, where it goes in, will have to be relatively parallel with that. Kind of cool. Saves me a little more space. Removing material. I have 3/4 of an inch, more than 5/8, less than 1 inch. I have about 3/4 of an inch worth of working room in there, so that's why I went with 1 inch, because I knew I'd be taking something off. But it looks like I'll be very shallow on one side. One thing to note, I mentioned earlier, these are self-contained. There's this pin in the closed position, latches underneath here, and then this releases that pin to open the hood. This serves as the spring to lift the hood. In those early pre-2005 Rams, they were like the current Rams. They carry the hood carries itself, which is a relatively large hood, along with the front grille. And I latched this. I just pushed down on it in the vise with this piece on it. Pulled this trigger and knocked that steel about right here. Fired it. It hit that steel, knocked it right off the bench. There's a significant amount of force here to lift the hood. So for those that are, considering something like a lightweight latch that's very reasonably contained, and the packaging small, this is a good solution. But know that this spring carries with it enough force for a large hood, so you may need to change this spring. In the case of my tiny little hood, I will certainly need to change that spring, because this inner structure, although it's going to add substantial strength to the overall hood, you don't want to be smacking it on the open. You want it to come up gently. This will have gas shocks to take it up and to its total height. There'll be the stop for the height. They'll be adjusted for the height and then closed, but they'll also assist in rising the hood up. So I just need that latch to clear. I just need that spring to clear the latch, and that's it. And so, when you're using donor parts, just be aware, number one, their overall condition. Are they in usable condition? Number two, the mechanics of how they operate and how you're changing that environment. So anyway, just a little bit of advice. Well, pulled the front end off. Got my fingers in places I shouldn't have, so I'll have to comb that again. But I pulled the upper radiator support off. Well, grill shell and all that, but pulled the upper radiator support off and have it in the vise. I welded 2 taper head screws in because I don't have any clearance, and established a mount. And on that mount will go my latch, and that'll reach out the proper distance to capture the receiving end. Now this is mounted with 2 screws on the upper radiator support. It keeps them apart at the right distance, and of course this is C-channel capped weld nuts, that whole kit and caboodle. So it's plenty strong for a 5-pound hood, so on the latch, if you remember the ears, I cut the ears off. They were back here. Cut them off, added a little bit of material so that I could clear all of the springs. I did a little bit of research and got a spring that was half the wire diameter, because that thing was throwing the hitch way too hard. I just needed to clear this. That's all I needed to do. Then I rolled a little piece of sheet metal, broke it, and it just screws into the bottom then. So from a top view, that's what you're looking at, because this is inside the engine bay. So this edge looks like a little unfinished, unkept, but if I do want to put a decorative return on it or something, I can. Don't know yet. Just simply fastens with I got a couple of stainless steel 1/4-inch 1032s. I placed the screw holes in strategic locations so that they wouldn't interfere with any of the mechanisms, and they're only a 1/4 inch long. and the sum of the 18 gauge and the 14 gauge is less than 1/4 of an inch, so the screws do capture all of the threads. Could have gone sheet metal, but these are just simply more robust. You know, they're going to stay in there. Now, of course, with all the welding, I got most of the paint off of it. I'll have to continue to get in there with the wire brush and that, and you know, and clean it all up. But I'm happy with how it's turning out. This is simply a piece of 3 by 1.5 C-channel. MIG'd it on the inside, and then TIG'd it on the outside so that I could get a nice finish out of the thing. So moving right along. Okay, now I got everything put together. One of the things that I wanted to do while I had it apart was try to get this radiator to move back, and I got it to move back about 1/2 of an inch. And the thing was that shroud was just too close to the front, or it was overhanging the front. It still overhangs, but a very, very minor amount now. So I got her very well centered in the opening, and basically assembled it back together. Now I stuck this in the loop. It's latched, and then I just got to get it horizontal or on the parallel with the hood. I got it parallel. I scribed on the underside, and now I've got the beginnings of my cutout. And if you remember right, I did not weld these together because it's important to me that I have a nice tight fit when I TIG that in. And if I'm a small amount one way or the other, I can adjust it right here. So if this, for example, if this had to come out at 1/4 of an inch and this touched, I would widen this hole 1/4 of an inch. So it was symmetrical, but while at the same time, it needs to look like it's designed in to the top. So anyway, so now I'll cut that out so she fits through. I'll get a tack on him and do a few tries. Should stick the cable in it. I really should stick the cable in it, but I mean, I can just reach in, I guess, and unlatch it. I can just pull this and unlatch it. I don't want to throw that up. But anyway, nearing the grand finale, which is to shut the hood, latch it, and open it. And again, after that's all said and done, then I check where I do interfere, because it opens enough on there. That's all the way. It opens enough that it would actually touch. And that's plenty open, but it's going to be probably a little more, like that. But what I'll do is I'll run my pieces in to the back in several locations, open it, and check, set the gap to, say, 1/8 of an inch instead of 3/16, and test it out so it will never have the opportunity to hit. Do the same for the front, even though it lifts. I know the range of motion is up, but check everything, and then this portion of the project will be done. A little bit of hammering, whenever you weld, a little bit of hammering, but we'll get it. All right, so I cut out the square. Just grabbed a couple of bed rails and tacked them to it to hold the structure, hold the shape, because that's just a very small band. And you see I don't have the unit in here. I did have the unit in here. I did latch it. That falls into the, I did adjust the pocket a little bit. It falls in. It was a little too tight. But this part of the latch stuck above the hood. It stuck above what would be the skin on the hood, which is about 50 thousandths above that surface. And you may have seen it. You guys may have seen it in the prior videos or noticed it in the prior little sessions here. For whatever reason, I didn't. For whatever reason, I didn't. So what I did was I sliced it very straight line down the middle. So I go parallel down, and I even accommodated the width of the blade by sticking a piece of 18 gauge. The blade's 40 thousandths, 16 gauge rather is 60 thousandths. Pushing it ahead 12 thousandths of an inch isn't gonna kill me. So I stuck it in there, rigged it up, flushed it out, tack, took it back over, and now I am just touching the upper radiator hose on this guy here, which I can relieve, but I'm gonna wait till I'm done. So, shoot, I can't believe I didn't see that. No big deal, but of course I can't just leave it like this with the broad step and all that. I'm gonna cut it off. We're gonna come down at an angle. I'm gonna, you know, clean that down and just get everything looking like it was formed, because that's the way it should look. Anyway, all I did, you can see I got the tacks on, and I went inside and hit it with the MIG. I want to TIG everything out because this is so much easier to grind. I mean, it saves so much time. But I got that in. I can flush that out, you know, just run a cutoff wheel down it and quick. But I want to clean it all up. So she shows good. Maybe even powder coat it today. Anyway, so now I'm in the process of cleaning that part up. Okay, I tacked it. It steps down 1/2 of an inch, basically the careful cut. Drop the whole piece down 1/2 of an inch. And then, like you saw, you know, welded it. Got it from the inside, TIG welded to get the flattest possible bead I could. And then went in and polished it. It does hourglass right here, but that's not a major concern of mine. This is so strong right now. This is C channel. This and this, all the way up, I guess, is C channel. This is C channel, and then I just filled in this with some 12 gauge. So remember, this the original hinge was 14, but it wasn't on a lever, so I'm giving it significant power right now. So it looks good. It turned out good. It'll powder coat good. Little bit of cleaning on the inside on that radius, and then I'll powder coat it. So once it's in. Okay, I just TIG tacked it in. Got the corners, got around the corners so I could keep it at the angle. Lock the sides in. Okay. Just to make sure I didn't get past the edge. I got a light gap there. I got a light gap there. And this fell off, but yeah, I didn't move in the back. So now the pin is horizontal. Oh, it's hard to see, but the pin is horizontal. There you go. We're tacked into the shell, so we're not gonna totally screw it up. I'm not taking these off until this is fully welded. I did have to bend these out. You know, all that'll get cut off. And then I'll finish forming it around, because I did create a gap down here just to relieve it. I put it in backwards. I flipped it over and put it in. Of course, it does latch, but it was off to the side, so I trimmed a little on this side and then flipped it back around. The key for this thing was to get that pin on center, on the center line, and I was able to establish that. So anyway, oh, I did roll this out too. I just threw this in the bead roller.
See if you'll start again.
And rolled and rolled and rolled, you know, just to try to bring, because it was dovetailed up. Bring it down. Sorry about the TV.
Super nice.
We'll keep on it. All right, everything tacked on the top side except for these little triangles. That's because I'm moving that radius up to there now. But everything else, the filler and everything's tacked in. So I'll get what I've cleaned so far. Get those tacked in, get around here, get into here, so on and so forth. I won't get into this area here until I clean it. Same with down here and across here. But I'm gonna cycle it, get some heat into it, and let it cool. Check it, you know, and go through the ritual here. But it's coming along. It's gonna look pretty cool when it's done. Okay, so get the triangles, those fills in. I have a pinhole right here. I'll have to tap that again. For whatever reason, and if you guys have ideas, I know the reason, but I mean, this one's pretty good, but, and this one's, you know, you can see I just added filler. But I fry those edges right away. So what I've been doing is just taking my MIG and you know, just building these out just a little bit, and before I come in and grind. So now what I'll do is I'll do that, get that hole filled, and that looks like about it, right? And then I'll finish these down, dolly this up, right? Just get all this nice and flat, so cosmetically it doesn't look like welds, right? And then I'll grind, or then I'll, you know, finish cleaning this off, and then start on the sides. Start on the perimeter on this side. So going well. Try to get it like that. I hit that. I must not have plugged the hole. But anyway, both sanded now, tapped. Just use 2 hammers, right? And tapped, and it turned out good. All right, top side tigged. I had to take another pass across here because it made a hole. That'll grind out. And then here and here, and I'm gonna finish here the same way I did the back. But you know, I don't want to. I got to be very careful across that good line of sight. And then I'll get here and here and flip them over. I opened up these holes. There's a little bit of cleanup that I have to do here, but I'll do that when I get in and you know, start finishing, doing the metal finish stuff. But it's looking good. It's gonna mold in quite nice. I'm glad I got this nice broke piece. It just holds that whole thing together. And of course the structure around this holds everything together. So other than dollying on those several small pieces, I mean, there's a lot of heat that builds up there, and I did it in steps. But warpage has been minimal. So hey, how are ya? Okay, so now I'm starting to get in with on the bottom side anyway, or on the show side. I got in with my conditioning disc, and I still have work to do down here, and I got to get in here, and that's going to take a burr to start. Typically, I start knocking off the welds with the 36. Okay, and this is a 60 grit flapper. This works very well for getting into the edges. Now this taper is tilted back that way, so it's a bit difficult, but you can get in there. I do use the finger sander in spaces that I can't, where I don't want to get a whole bunch of material off the side, but I want to get the material out of the one edge, you know. And so that's coming along. I got to pull this jig off. There's an area where I'd use the finger sander, right? Those are weld overhangs, you know, just excess weld in several spots, and I take it to that point. Okay, I don't want to get too far with it. I condition this side. I'm not gonna fill in the little cracks on this side. This is the side that gets the hood skin bonded to it, but you can see some signature from the welding and that activity. But in here now, what I'll do is I'll need to clean that up, but I got to get this brace off. But I'm going to wait to take the brace off until I get, you know, all this taken care of. If I expose a little hole and I got to pop a little weld on, I'm just going to wait. That's the last thing, you know. I'll get it all conditioned and I'll pop those off, clean up the edges from the tacks, and go to trying it out. Whew. It is not bad though. This hasn't been too bad. All right, there she is, bracing removed, cleaned up the weld marks. See how she goes on at an angle. It's all welded and dressed out. I'm not spending a ton of time on this side because this side gets panel bonded. But it turned out really good. I'm very happy with it. And now we got to bolt it on. Okay. I put the cable on the latch. There it is. Up. I made some adjustments, got it on center, and aligned the hood and all that stuff. Just to get her there. The gas struts will take it up. There's full extension. I had a little adjustment on that hinge because it's actually holding it up. There's a small amount of hinge bind. And then, oops, she's shut. I put a light spring in it. I could go with a heavier spring and throw it a little harder, but it clears the latch. Clears the latch just perfect. Once I got the tin on it, the skin, then, and of course the hinges will work a little bit loose. Very happy with it. Project complete. So at this time now, the hood frame is done. That was yesterday. Saw the little demo on opening and shutting it. It works great. I still have to get this area now is concentrated down into this area. This is straight across, and I got a little lip right here. I'm gonna do that, but being I started fresh this morning, we did see the video, if you've been watching, on the passenger side hood, and I just decided today I got to get this up off the ground, got to get this done. So I just began right now tacking, very slowly tacking this guy into the hood side. So that's what I'll be doing. We did see the other one video. It's pretty straightforward, you know, weld this and hammer and dolly till you're tired, and then do it some more. But anyway, I'm going to finish up this hood side, then I'll come back and dress that up, and we'll be into it. This hood side is right now at my son's. He is helping to model the grill that will go into the grill that will go into this area here. So I'm pretty excited about it, how we're gonna do that, but that's coming, and it'll be a little bit of time, but it's coming, and we'll get into it. That will then, of course, the skin for the hood, right? That's got to get done, and my brother has a full-size jet English wheel that he'll borrow me when I take the grill, the skeleton off, or the inner structure off, and go to his house to roll it. And I'll probably do it in 3 segments, do the top and then do the hood sides, because you don't want to roll the whole thing, try to line it up, get it on there, put it on, and then it doesn't line up. I want to get the top bonded on and then very carefully make the piece that'll transition this. And again, remember, this hood opens this way. We've got to address that pitch. So how that hood side transitions to the hood side transitions to the top lid, and probably will need to be a radius of some sort in there. So we'll address that as we get to it. But so far things are going very well, and I'm very happy with the results. We'll just keep plugging away.